So the NHL season's starting today, and before things kick off, I want to get through my Western Conference predictions. I'm going to start off with the Central Division. In 7th and last, I have the Chicago Blackhawks. Cap hell seems to have finally caught up with the Blackhawks, as their depth that won them 3 cups in 6 years has completely disappeared. Their incredibly deep defense is all but gone, with the exception of Keith and Seabrook. Things have just gone downhill for the Blackhawks. Kane and Taves aren't performing at the level that they used to. They brought in Cam Ward in the offseason to have a reliable NHL caliber backup if Crawford gets injured again. If Crawford stays healthy and or if Cam Ward plays well, this team could potentially push for a playoff spot because they still have all the pieces there. And Alex DeBrincat is an incredibly talented young player, and I have a feeling he's going to be absolutely insane this year. But with the depth that some of the teams in the Central have, I don't see the Blackhawks performing incredibly well. A playoff berth, like a wild card spot, or maybe even 3rd place in the division, isn't completely out of reach for them. But I don't see them being one of the top teams in the division again. In 6th, I have the Colorado Avalanche. The Avs are a very good team this year. They have an incredible top line with McKinnon, Rantanen, and Landeskog. A lot of their issues will happen in net if Varlamov doesn't play the whole season, and if he doesn't play well the entire season, they could be in trouble. They did get Grubauer in the offseason, who is a reliable backup. He's proven that. But if Varlamov goes down and he needs to play long stretches of time, I don't know how well that'll turn out for the Avs. They're in a situation similar to Chicago where some good goaltending and God mode for a second straight year from McKinnon of like possibly a Hart caliber season for McKinnon, and they're easily in the playoffs. But if McKinnon takes a step back, if that top line takes a step back, and if in net things aren't solid, I don't see them making the playoffs. In 5th, I have the Minnesota Wild. If they keep up the consistency that they have had in years past, I also see them making the playoffs. Really, in the Central, anyone could make the playoffs. I feel like there's going to be a hell of a battle from that 3rd playoff spot. Right now in the Central, I only see 2 teams that I'm for sure 100% are going to make the playoffs, and I'll get to those 2 in a bit. It's pretty obvious who they are. But the Wild are, they've been consistently good since they signed Parise and Suter back in 2011, but they haven't been consistently great. They haven't been great at all, really. And now a lot of their core is aging. Suter's probably starting to slow down, Parise's slowing down. Eric Stahl had a resurgent year last year, but if he doesn't follow up with that with another 30-goal spectacular season, this team's going to be lacking something on offense. I don't see them having the youth movement coming up to help support these falling old guys, and I feel like the time of Minnesota being a perennial playoff team is about to come to an end. In 4th, and taking a wildcard spot, I have the Dallas Stars. Valeri Nichushkin comes back from the KHL, adding to an already very strong offense. That just gives them an option beyond that super top line. It gives them some more needed depth in secondary scoring that's going to be huge for them this season. On defense, they add Roman Polak and Connor Carrick, both from Toronto, as depth pieces, which adds to a defense that's already filled with puck-moving defensemen that can just get it up the ice. They have great ability to get their puck up the ice to their incredibly talented forwards of Ben, Sagan, Radulov, Spezza, Nichushkin now, and so on. In net, they add Khudobin as backup to be behind Ben Bishop. They should be pretty solid. They should make the playoffs. In 3rd in the division, I have the St. Louis Blues. The Blues added a multitude of depth to their middle 6 this offseason. They added Ryan O'Reilly, Tyler Bozak, Patrick Maroon, brought back David Perron. So this team is just incredibly deep at forward, adding to an already deep blue line that has Pietrangelo and Colton Parayko. The only problem is Jake Allen had an off year last year, and this team relied a lot on Carter Hutton, who got signed with Buffalo. So, and the replacement for Hutton was Chad Johnson, who is a solid backup, but I don't think he can step up and be a starter for this team. So they need Jake Allen to have a bounce-back season, or else making the playoffs could be in doubt. In 2nd, I have the Nashville Predators, who had no real additions but no real subtractions to a team that's been a cup contender for the past 2 seasons. They should contend for a cup again. They're an incredibly talented squad. Pekka Rinne's coming off of a Vezina Trophy season. The defense is stacked. The forward corps is stacked. This is one of the teams to watch this season. And I feel like this is the 3rd year in a row that we're saying this, but I mean, the team's been basically unchanged for the past 3 years. My first pick for the Central Division, the Winnipeg Jets. The Jets lose some pieces like Toby Enstrom, Paul Stastny, Hutchinson, but they're a young team that had it all just gel last season, and I feel like they're going to be even better this year because of the fact that they were so young and they're just now coming together into a real contender. And I feel like just they're going to collectively all take a step forward this season. And really, this team is one of my favorites for the Cup. I think they are a legitimate contender. They are just absolutely stacked all around. Hellebuyck just turned into an absolute god last season in net. Laine's a perennial 40-goal scorer. Blake Wheeler all of a sudden became a 90-point man. If he can follow that up, then this team's just set. This is just a team that I think is really going to make some major waves this season. Moving on to the Pacific Division. In last place, in 8th, I have the Vancouver Canucks. The Canucks have been going downhill for a while now, and the Sedins just retired. That should be it. That should be the end of the era. That should be full-on rebuild. And yet they signed Antoine Roussel and Jay Beagle to 4-year deals each? I don't understand the thought process here. I don't understand what's going on in Vancouver. These are not moves that a rebuilding team makes, and now they're sending Sam Gagner to the AHL for the season on loan of Toronto, which is a move that you do if you're sending some veterans that you're phasing out down so you can bring some young guys up, get them NHL experience as part of your tanking process. But you signed Roussel and Beagle to 4-year contracts? I'm not even going to pretend to understand what's going on in Vancouver. Brock Besser's good, but if they don't build around him, build around Horvat, things can get real ugly real fast in Vancouver, especially if some of their young guys like Besser decide the team's not building around them fast enough and decide they want to leave in a couple years, which could be a possibility with the way these signings are going. In 7th, I have the Arizona Coyotes. The Coyotes, who were terrible for the most part all of last season, actually started to play better near the end and showed that maybe with like a healthy Ranta and if this team's all together, they could win some games. And then they absolutely fleeced the Habs, just made Bergevin look like even more of an idiot in the Galchenyuk trade, getting Galchenyuk for Max Domi. Two players who are about the same age, except Galchenyuk scores twice as many goals as Domi and had a 30-goal season a couple years ago, whereas the most Domi's ever had is 18. Add that to the continued development of Clayton Keller and possibly Dylan Strome finally showing up. I mean, this is starting to look like a real bad draft pick for Arizona, but if Dylan Strome can show up and be the pick that he was supposed to be, and Clayton Keller continues his development, and if they get a full season of Ranta playing like he did at the end of last year, this team could win some games. I don't think they're going to challenge for a playoff spot just yet, but maybe next year or like a couple years down the road, because I'm starting to like what Arizona's building here. In 6th place, I have the Oilers. This team came into last season with so much hype. There were people saying that they were going to make it all the way to the Cup final, possibly even challenge for the Cup, and then they didn't make the playoffs. And they just really did not do anything to add to this team this summer. They didn't address any of their depth issues. They signed Tobias Reeder and Kyle Brodziak. That's all they did to help their depth. They got a new backup in Mikko Koskinen, so not much support for Cam Talbot coming in either. I see this team doing about exactly the same as they did last season, and I don't think they're making the playoffs. In 5th, I have the Anaheim Ducks. Ricard Raquel has emerged as a very good scorer in the NHL. They have some great defense and great goaltending depth in John Gibson and then an aging Ryan Miller as his backup. But the Ducks' best years are behind them at this point. Their core is aging. Getzlaf, Kessler, and Corey Perry aren't getting any younger. In fact, Corey Perry is going to miss the first 5 months of the season after getting surgery. That's a huge hit to their offense, losing a former Rocket Richard winner. I feel like with a return to form of Getzlaf, this team could do incredibly well. But as of right now, I don't think they have the offensive abilities or the offensive depth, really, to challenge for the playoffs. They'll probably be around the playoff spots because they have the defensive and goaltending capabilities to hang around. But I think come crunch time, as the season wears on, and just the wear and tear of an NHL season gets to their older players, I don't think they're going to be able to get that push late in the season required to make the playoffs. In 4th, and also taking a wildcard spot, I have the LA Kings. Kovalchuk is back, baby. If he can play anything like he did when he left the NHL 5 years ago, which he's probably not going to, but if he can play anywhere near that level, if he can score 30 goals or anything, this team is for sure in the playoffs, especially with how Kopitar played last season. If he can keep that up, if Doughty can keep up playing like he did last season. I know last year's resurgence was a lot of players who had taken a couple steps down in recent years having resurgent seasons, Dustin Brown in particular, could be iffy to say that this team's for sure going to make the playoffs right away. But I feel like if they have some of that swagger that they got back last year back, and if Quick continues to like show the form of what 2012 Jonathan Quick was, in addition to Anze Kopitar playing like the elite center that he is, and Drew Doughty playing like what he is one of the best defensemen in the world, this team should be able to squeeze no wildcard spot. In third, I have the Calgary Flames. This is kind of an unreliable pick, because given the Flames, they could end up absolutely anywhere in this division. I mean, on paper, they look really good, but with the Flames looking good on paper and performing well, haven't really gone hand in hand. They add James the Real Deal Neal through free agency, just to add more depth and more scoring ability to their forward group, which really they were lacking at the end of last season when everyone got hurt. And then they had that huge blockbuster trade of Carolina where they traded Dougie Hamilton and Michael Furland for Noah Hannafin and Elias Lindholm. I really like Elias Lindholm. I feel like on this team, surrounded by some skilled forwards, he can make some noise. And Noah Hannafin is just a solid defender. He's going to be a solid defender for years and years to come. The real issue with this team is whether or not Bill Peters can get them on track. If Bill Peters can get this team focused and playing like the Flames that had those 8-game win streaks at times last season all year, they could challenge for even first in the division. But if they don't play consistently, if they stay as that inconsistent Flames that we've seen in years past, they could miss the playoffs. And honestly, with the team that they have, I think they should be able to like push to the conference finals or further, but it's always just been a problem with consistency with this team. In second place, I have the Vegas Golden Knights. Barring a collective fall back to their original forms on other teams, if the Golden Knights play anything like they did last season, they should easily make the playoffs. They were just absolutely amazing last year. A full season of Marc-Andre Fleury, because he was hurt for the beginning of last year, would just be absolutely devastating to anyone they play against. They add Paul Stastny, giving them more depth in the middle, and also traded for Max Pacioretty, which just gives them a wicked option on the wing. One issue I have is the Nate Schmidt got a 20-game suspension, which will hurt them a bit at the beginning of the season. But once he comes back, their blue line is just going to be right back up and kicking to where it was last. I see this team maybe not being a cup finalist again, because there are some really, really good teams in the West this year. But I could see them easily making the playoffs. And in first place in the Pacific, I have the San Jose Sharks. The Sharks were kind of peddling around this offseason, didn't get Tavares despite offering him a reported $13 million, didn't really do much in terms of additions or subtractions, except for losing Bodker in that weird Mike Hoffman swap where they took Hoffman for about 20 minutes before sending him off to Florida for a better return than Ottawa got, which was just an amazing trade for them. And then they went out and they got Erik Karlsson. This is a team that already had probably the second best offenseman in the NHL and Brent Burns on their team. And they said, you know what? No, that's not good enough. We want the two best offensive defensemen in the NHL on our team. So they have Brent Burns and Erik Karlsson. And oh my god, I don't even begin to think about how to play against that. I haven't even started talking about the fact that they also have Marc-Edouard Vlasic on this D-line. They're just insanely good defensively. Add that to an offense that had a resurgent Evander Kane play for them at the end of last season. If he plays like he did at the end of last season for this entire year, he could be a 30-goal scorer plus. Jumbo Joe Thornton is always a win. Joe Pavelski, Logan Couture, all just incredibly talented forwards. Martin Jones and net, also very solid. This team is just, I just can't get past the fact that they have Brent Burns and Erik Karlsson. Their power play is going to be insane because they have two of the best power play quarterbacks in the NHL. This is just going to be a dominant year for them probably. I feel bad for anyone in the Pacific that has to play against that D-line, because this may be one of the best D-lines we have ever seen in the NHL history, period. So there we have it. That's my NHL predictions. The season starts tonight. Hopefully it'll be an incredibly fun one.